Hello, lovely people, and welcome back. I finally got together the last bits of the recordings of the Bonk Night series. I suppose I didn't really take that to its complete conclusion, but who knows, maybe we'll come back to it. Either way, I had recordings of the other paintings that I'd done, and I figured it was best to get them into video form. The original inspiration, of course, was Axel Sauerwald's fantastic daily sketches. And so you can see at the beginning I had all of those little Instagram posts up. And originally I was thinking that really I wanted to take his image of the night going through that lovely lavender field, and then maybe sort of put a twist on it, show that there's like these big cavernous ravines in between. And you can see like the purple flowers kind of overflowing from the top there. And the Bonk Knight is slowly navigating their way down, carefully stepping down these steps, and these ravines have been sort of carved out by water like falling down these passages for ages, and so they're slippery and wet. I figured it would just be like a nice kind of slightly more in-depth exploration shot, so you know, it's not just the guy with the stick standing in the environment. It's a bit more, it's communicating a little more about the environment. They're clearly sort of trying to keep their balance and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it was quite a fun idea. I ended up getting rid of that purple because I think it just made it too complicated. I started to see this nice sort of deep foresty look. It could still be sort of ravine-like, but it's been filled with just moss and trees and ancient forest stuff. So that was the direction I took it in, and then just slowly started detailing this piece out. There's really not too much else to say on this one, so I'm going to quickly touch on just some sort of thoughts and feelings I've had regarding video recording. It's been very hard to sit down and actually get one of these recordings going. There's some strange mental block that's really preventing me from easily doing these recordings, even though I've tried to remove as much of the sort of outside pressure as possible. So, you know, I've found a nice way to record directly into the editing software. I've found the things that can remove noise and whatever, so I don't have to do that in post. I will speed up and do whatever to the video before I even press record. But I think there's just like this sort of huge pressure that I still can't ignore subconsciously. Because even compared to streaming live, there's something about wanting to create a recording and wanting it to sound the best it can, or at least sort of flow the best that it can. And because you only sort of... Well, it feels like I have one shot, even though, of course, with recording, I can edit this stuff afterwards ad nauseum. But it sort of feels like there's more pressure because when you're live, it's expected that things are going to be less performative. You know, you don't have to know exactly what you're going to say, and people expect that. And perhaps it's just the fact that a YouTube video, a lot of them are scripted. I'm personally not scripting these things because that would add another layer of I would never get around to doing it. But yeah, who knows? Anyway, quickly going back to Process, the fun thing here was I started out with this color palette. I wanted to go back and see if I could do something with that purple again. And I just felt like the purple really wasn't working for me. Also just having the dark silhouettes on a fairly dark looking background just wasn't really working out. So I inverted the entire color scheme and values structure, and then I ended up with this. So for a while I thought, oh yeah, this is great, I'm really going to go with this instead. And I ended up then inverting the entire value structure again, except this time I kept the white ground and then just made the background darker. So it was a really interesting one, just going back and forth between these different value schemes. And ended up with this, which still changes quite significantly towards the end, where I make the background much, much darker, which is strange because then I ended up doing the opposite of what I was worried at the beginning, and had a character which was technically a slightly darker silhouette, but then really popping out their shapes and stuff just with reflections from the ground. But I realized that would be a very fun way to really enhance the look of the metal, rather than going for your sort of standard silhouette, which sort of relies on the fact that most objects are going to be darker than the sky or just the light behind them. Because this is reflective, it's going to be as bright as the ground around it, maybe a little less. And that would be the thing that really makes this pop out. So you can see I'm now just going through and really trying to accurately add in all the reflections that would come from the bottom. And the fun thing is that having put in this white ground and then it's kind of tailing off towards this tealy green outer rim, I tried to make sure that that was reflected in the armor as accurately as possible. So you can see it goes through bands of being this pure white at the bottom, sort of shifting up through pink and then having this band of green across the middle before it then becomes dark very, very quickly. Because those big sort of looming mushroomy things in the background, they're giving off very little light that's actually reflecting in the top part of the armor. So it ended up being something which I really enjoyed the aesthetic of. It was very difficult. You can see I fiddle back and forth with how to capture these reflections exactly. And there's places where I tried to do a double reflection. So just above the belt, you can see that little curved shape. That's me trying to put in the reflection of the, I forget what it's called, but the part of the armor that covers the upper leg that goes around, like comes down from the central band. It's trying to show that that thing is blocking the ground from reflecting up at it. And I have no idea how effective that really is. When I look at it, I understand what I was going for, but I'm not sure if you get that kind of immediate feeling that it's correct that you would with like looking at a photograph of the same thing. Anyway, so yeah, I just fiddle around with this for ages, and I realized that to make the reflections on the armor, which are getting very complex and noisy, if I'm going to have those stand out and read clearly at all, the background behind it needs to be much simpler and much darker. So really, it's darkened, but also just sort of faded out as much as possible. I really remove a lot of the contrast in there so that the Bonk Knight can stand out. But yeah, going back to thoughts on just sort of restrictive feelings of trying to record things like this. It's strange because at the moment, you know, I'm in the middle of doing it. Who knows if I'll do sort of retakes and things like that and edit stuff out. But now that I'm here, it feels very obvious that this does not take a lot of time. It's easier than I expect it to be. But I don't know, for whatever reason, I forget that as soon as I finish, or as soon as like a day or two passes. And perhaps I just haven't done enough yet. You know, I've only got maybe 10 narrated videos on YouTube at the moment. So that's not many. And I guess the more that I get used to this sort of format, this will actually become a lot easier. But I don't know, at the moment there's still this huge barrier to entry for some reason. Perhaps I should do what Arkman's been doing and like map out exactly how I perceive this thing in my head. Like draw the little barrier, or you know, to try and visualize this sort of mental state better, because I think just rationalizing it or thinking like, oh yeah, it's easy, I'm going to do it, it's going to be fine, and then procrastinating and doing something else. Like today already, instead of getting on and doing this recording, I spent about 2 hours just making a piece of music for the background, which admittedly was good. It was productive. It's going to be used in the video, but it was another thing which made it easy for me to go, yeah, I won't record just yet. You know, I'll do this other thing first. And yeah, I don't know. Something I need to work through somehow. But yeah, regarding the music though, I was going for I wanted to make another light, chill, lo-fi thing that could go in the background that won't draw the attention too much and has a sort of neutral vibe. I didn't want it to feel uplifting or sad or anything like that, because I didn't feel like this Bonk Knight piece had a particular tone to it. But yeah, I ended up with a very bizarre kind of wonky beat that, I don't know, it's very different to what I expected I would make when going in. In fact, I think I'll just let that play out now. So the rest of the video is just the process I took to animate this piece together, making all the different frames, making all the little parts that I might need. But for this final bit where I just sort of play the final results, you can listen to the wonky beat and let me know what you think of it.